All of my adult life, when I listened to other people, my friends, about their childhood, I couldn't help but finding it really, really hard to understand what motherly love was, and what relationships were with your family. A hug from your mum, words of encouragement, laughing together, taking time together, and being a parent myself now, I understand what I missed out on, and actually that a lot of my childhood was wrong, really, really wrong. But as a child, you don't really understand that, because what you do is it becomes the norm. So today I'm sitting here telling you, if you feel as a child, as a teenager, and even as an adult today, that something was wrong, talk about it, get it out. Don't let it fester in there any longer. I'm 52 now, and still my past affects me, and it will for the rest of my life, but I've accepted it and I've allowed myself to move on. So, gosh, as a child, how I craved that I belonged somewhere. And like I say, as a mother myself of two amazing, amazing girls, I hope they feel empowered. I hope they feel as though they belong. And I hope they feel that they're loved. My past still affects me, niggling doubts. Am I enough? Am I doing my best? And so the question I ask myself often is, and what do you think? Abusers, if you knew what you were giving your victims, or your survivors, as I like to call myself, a life sentence of emotional turmoil, of thinking, will this ever stop? Thinking, what did I do wrong? Thinking, why me? Thinking, is this the way? Is this the way you show love? Would they actually think and stop from doing that? Because what you abusers do, is give us, the survivors, your victims, a lifetime of turmoil, of worry, of anxiety. I just cannot put it into words. It is absolutely appalling. If only you knew, cared, or even could just take an ounce of what we feel, would you do what you did? So many times I have been told, you were young. As if it doesn't matter. You were a child. You probably can't remember. You know what? I did remember. I can remember. And it's wrong. And abusers give us a life sentence. What gives them the right to do that to us? Do you actually know what you have done to the survivors of your abuse? Do you think because I was a child it didn't count? Do you think because I lived in an environment that was not really functional, that it didn't count? I used to dream to myself, I used to pretend I was adopted, and one day my real mum or some fairy godmother would come and take me away. And arguments would cease. There'd be no more arguments. There'd be no more nasty comments. There'd be no snipey remarks. And there would be no abuse that I know that it is now. As far as I remember, my dad worked shifts. He worked 10 to 2, 2 to 10, that kind of thing. And my mum worked the evenings in a local pub. So when my mum went to work, my dad was usually coming in, or vice versa. Or sometimes we needed a babysitter. Now, my gran lived next door. I called her my grandma. She was my dad's mum. I do remember a lovely memory from her, actually, is she used to make us jam sandwiches, which were fantastic. But my gran used to live next door, and sometimes she would come and babysit, look after us, me and my two brothers. But when she couldn't, and those shifts kind of crossed over where we were left on our own, my uncle, my mum's brother, would come and babysit us. Now, he lived in a village about 7 miles away, but he would come and babysit us. And I remember my uncle used to let me have cornflakes when I was hungry. But I wasn't to tell anybody that he gave me cornflakes, because it was our little secret. It was between me and him, because I was special and I was his special girl. He only used to babysit a few times, but all of a sudden it became quite regular. And I remember crying one time saying I wanted my grandma, I wanted my nana to babysit. I didn't want my uncle. And I was called silly and stupid and that I was causing a fuss. And so I begged for my nana or my grandma to babysit, but I was just called stupid. I was called that a lot, actually, growing up. I remember my mum and dad's room. My mum and dad's room had an electric fire in it. The ones that have 2 bars, you know, you kind of plug it into the socket. And I remember turning the switch on and watching the bar gradually turn to the brightest orange it could. It was cold upstairs, really cold upstairs. My uncle let me put the electric fire on. He said I was allowed to put that fire on after I'd had my cornflakes, because I was his special girl, but not to tell anybody. So hear me continue my story next time. Thank you all for listening, and I hope I inspire, and know that this comes from the heart. It is as I recall it. It is as honest as I can make it. So until next time, keep living, keep smiling, keep loving, keep talking. Namaste.